How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? My name is RUFFLEDLIVE, and welcome back to a brand new video, guys. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be taking a look at a few different things. We're going to be talking about specifically the future of Pokemon, because we now have a lot of details from Game Freak directly about what we should expect and how the development works for these games, but also leaks and information about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. First things first is this post right here from Lutu, which has to do with the future of Pokemon development specifically, and this comes to us from Game Freak themselves. Okay, so this is literally from Game Freak, because they're currently at the CEDED or CEDED conference of 2022, and it's currently being hosted by Keiichi Maezawa of Game Freak, who works there. And Game Freak, for those who do not know, who do not have this information, are the people that make the Pokemon games. They're the ones who develop all the mainline Pokemon games, excluding the Ilka game, which was BDSP. But nonetheless, here's what's basically going on. Basically, it says the following. Basically, the game, Scarlet and Violet, we now know when these games started development, and we also know what their pipeline looks for when they make these games now. So, the first thing here says, mostly just setting the story for how Pokemon assets were developed throughout the series up until Legends Arceus. And that's pretty much what you see in these first slides here. It's just them explaining how they used to make, models, and how they used to, like, create, assets and stuff like that, and how they would then, like, transfer that. And then also, right here, we get the biggest confirmation that we could have ever gotten. And this pretty much confirms what I've been saying for a long time, which is that Pokemon games are in development for a long time, and their development starts very early on, and they're usually... Let me just make it clear like this. Usually Pokemon games, and it's proven now, are developed for a longer time. People think that, oh, they make a game in a year and that they only make one game at a time. No, they make multiple games at a time all the time. So what are we talking about? Basically, confirmation that Pokemon Legends Arceus began development in the fall of 2018, with Scarlet and Violet starting around the time Generation 8 was finishing up. Means that both games had 3 years of development. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is proof. Now you can see the timeline here. This is literally from Game Freak themselves, okay? The timeline right here literally says it. So you guys can see above my head here, it's kind of blocked a little bit by the camera, but that's besides the point. It says 2018, and that's kind of where the timeline begins for the Legends development, right? So literally Legends was being developed at the tail end of when Scarlet and Violet's, before even the reveal, okay? Before the reveal of Scarlet and Violet, Sword and Shield. Before Sword and Shield was even, like, revealed, Legends was already in the works. And shortly after that, around probably the same time, I would assume, around that same period, based on what I see right here, where we, like, already knew about Sword and Shield, they'd already started making Scarlet and Violet, so that was already in development at that point, which means that both games had 3 years of development in total right there. So this pretty much confirms that, yes, they work on multiple games at the same time. They're not just doing one thing, and this proves that we pretty much will be getting new Pokemon games every year going forward, most likely, just based on the fact that they now have simplified the way they do stuff. Now, what are we talking about? Basically, Maezawa is going over how Pokemon models are stored for a consistent use, and are then tailored to each new game, with these examples being from Legends Arceus. So basically, now that the way they store these, like, files, and the way they store these models and all that, now they can reuse it much easier. Now it's not as complicated for them to do that. And I guess right here you guys can kind of see that, the way they can kind of reuse these assets across their different games, which I think is pretty awesome. And if we can get more Pokemon games but high quality, I'm very happy. So basically says here, the effects pipeline talk. From what I can gather, this effectively is talking about how effects such as shader FX, lighting, etc. are applied far more effectively with this new pipeline. So yeah, generally, I guess just any sort of effect related stuff, like literal effects within the game, are applied much easier. And I guess we can kind of like see right here sort of how they kind of apply these, like this thing that, as you can see with the Pikachu over here, where my face is blocking it. You can see how it kind of, they're able to apply that same, like pipeline of like effects onto both games really easily and adjust it accordingly to fit different art styles. And that's the big thing, okay? They have been able now to actually shift around and make the games look different and have different, kind of art styles much easier. They can kind of apply the models and stuff to different, like, games depending on their art styles, no matter what. Like, it's much easier for them to do that now. So also, he's just making a joke here about this footage that we see right here. But then he continues on. So more talk on the various model improvements and effects, such as how Spiritomb is opaque only from behind, which is fair enough. Really glad he brought up Ghastly here. The effect for it in Legends looks great. So yeah, we can see right here, they're just showing off different, like, I guess, aspects of the effects, like the little indents in some of the Pokemon, the backs of certain Pokemon, how they look like, and all that. And yeah, the effect of Ghastly in the game as well. And I do like the flames on the different Pokemon. They do look pretty solid sometimes, not gonna lie. Either way, so that was one of the things. Next up, though, is a new concept art for Jubilee Village, which is pretty cool. You guys can see it under my face cam right here. This artwork right there is basically like an early concept art, I guess, of what they were imagining Jubilee Village to look like. And here, I guess, it's with the different effects applied on, with a much darker version existing over there. But yeah, there you go. And also just in general, I guess, day-night-esque type stuff. I guess this is not really that. It's more just the effects that are being applied rather than a day and night cycle. Nonetheless, we continue on. So, talking about the various improvements of the effects in Legends Arceus, such as the bushy looking hair and the gel-like effects and glowing particles, terrestrial variations. Heard the words Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald in there. Really can't wait to get this translated. So, don't really know what that's all about. But talking about the efficiency of being able to reuse animations between Pokemon with similar body types, different molds, such as a snake-like and a dragon-like, a dog or a cat-like, etc., to copy motion from one to another. So yes, this is something I think is really interesting. So basically, instead of like just having to create a new, because you got to realize there's a lot of Pokemon models, there's a lot of Pokemon that exist, there's way too many at this point, that it's impossible to each generation make a new set of models, a new set of motions, and for every new Pokemon to imply, like, you know, import. Like, listen, the one thing in game development that you have to understand is, this is something like my literal game developer teacher told me, which is work smarter, not harder, okay? Like, and that's just the translation of how he said it. The literal Swedish way, if you know Swedish, he said fuska snyggt, which just means like cheat your way through, like, doing what you gotta do, but do it in a cool way, in a nice way that it's not noticeable, right? And that's how game development is. It's a lot of, you know, smoke and mirrors to make you think something's there when it really isn't, and make something look a certain way, but in reality, it was probably easier than just doing it the way you would have imagined them doing it. So them reusing the different molds of, like, specifically certain motions, like, for example, right here, you can see them reusing the same motion for both Lucario and Machop, right? They're reusing the same motion instead of having to make an individual one for Machop, an individual one for the other one. And this all comes down to how they've now been able to kind of, as you can see right here, they kind of categorize them all up into different categories here. But what is interesting is, this, I think, has now allowed them to make more stuff much quicker, I would assume, and also make games quicker. Now, more animated slides about smaller and or different bone structures being resizable between body types for efficiency. And also here, another example of sharing animations between Rayquaza and Barboach, as well as the more recent implementation of the motion capture to mainline Pokemon games. So yes, motion capture is now being used, which is interesting because I don't think they really did that much before. And then over here, you guys can kind of see them using the motion capture suits and all that over in the Game Freak Studios and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, you can see people doing different motions and Machop doing the same. So yeah. Now, introduction of the Poké-Rig. Now, this is an interesting one. This I was looking at before I even was working on the video. But now, they kind of segment off. And this is, I guess, allowing them to do animations much easier, but basically they segment off each of the, like, Pokemon's body pieces, so it's easier to actually animate them, or also easier to, I guess, put them together. So it's here, basically, introduction of the Poké-Rig, where they can essentially create building blocks that make up a Pokemon's model to allow for more efficient pipeline. Now, it continues on and says, lots of spline showcases used here, toggles that allow for smoother movement. I'm really simplifying this for the sake of Twitter. A goal to create various games with unique or different art styles using a shared set of models as a base. So basically, they just would be able to make multiple different things using this, rather than just, like, you know, again, instead of, for example, for Pokemon Masters EX, instead of making new models and making new stuff all the time, they can instead reuse these assets and implement it over there without having to recreate it each time, which is fair enough. And not just for, like, you know, that sort of stuff, but for just different kinds of games. They can reuse different aspects easily and implement it into another game. So yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Nonetheless, here is basically a pretty interesting one. So a GIF of it in action. Someone should send this to Ilka. And this pretty much, what is this? Well, basically, this shows off how there is simply a toggle that you could have slided on to make the animations of certain Pokemon smoother and make their bodies not move in this rigid way, which I think BDSP did have that. But yeah, they could have easily just fixed that. That was fixable, more or less. But nonetheless, I do think all this is interesting because what this really tells us more than anything is the fact that, yes, this is the biggest thing I would say. Out of all this, for a casual fan, this is the biggest thing you want to know. Now, what am I talking about? Well, basically, the fact that we now know how long the development cycle is for these Pokemon games, 100%. And we also know, we have proof that they will work on multiple games at the same time. And this is something that even, interestingly, Centro actually pointed out, which is, it's amazing to think that in mid-2019, Game Freak was working on all of this at once. Finishing the Sword and Shield development, Sword and Shield DLC development, PLA development, BDSP planning with Ilka, so Ilka did that more of that, and Scarlet and Violet development. 5 main Pokemon projects at once, minus the one that Ilka did, then it's 4. But still, that's 4 projects, okay? DLC, Sword and Shield, PLA, and Scarlet and Violet, plus the fact that they were probably having some influence on BDSP's development as well. But that is 4 or 5 projects, 4 to 5 projects at the same time in 2019, okay? At the same time, which pretty much proves that right now, I'm telling you, right now at Game Freak, they've already started the development of the next game for, you know, well, the DLC, first of all, the DLC for next year for Scarlet and Violet. Generation 10 is already being made, but not just that, they're also 100,000% making some form of experimental game similar to Legends or Let's Go, because those are experimental games. Those are games that are more experiments rather than full-on fledged finished products. They're already experimenting on that sort of stuff over there right now and making something new that I think is going to be related to Johto. Will it be a Let's Go Johto? I don't know. Will it be a Legends Johto? I don't know. But I do think there is a game that's going to be coming out right after the DLC. So in 2024, there will be a Johto-related game and possibly even 2 games. Because we've now seen that them releasing BDSP and Legends works, okay? It works. I'm going to look up this because I want to just show this off for the sake of this video. But Pokemon Switch game sales. I want to show you guys just overall where are the sales on, like, you know, the best selling stats, I guess, for the Pokemon games, just because I'm curious to know which one's done the best and who's performed the most. Now, this is going to be a little bit complicated because we do need, like, a proper list to make sure that we don't, like, get the wrong, like, you know, information. But I do think this information right here comes directly from, I think this should be directly from the actual Nintendo website, which is the sales data that they have. And this is like something they have to disclose for their investors. So we're going to see if this is going to load and if we can get this information. So yes, here we go. So unfortunately, we can't see the top 2, but I know that the top 2, like without even looking, I know the number 1 is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and number 2 is Animal Crossing, which are the 2 highest selling Switch games. Then you have Smash Ultimate, Breath of the Wild, then of course Sword and Shield, and then shortly down there you have almost 15 million copies. I think now it actually is at 15 million, which is Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. You have Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee at 14.6 million, and then I think for Legends, let me see, Pokemon Legends Arceus sales, if you look at those numbers, it sold 12.64 million copies, okay? So that already puts it technically slightly below these, like down here, like slightly below Let's Go Pikachu and Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. You gotta remember, these 2 games were released between a 1.5, like month and a half, 2.5 months, give or take, like basically a 2-month time span difference between each other. They were released so close to each other, like ridiculously close to each other, and they still sold a combined almost 30 million copies. Like, I mean, the actual number lands somewhere more around the range of, I guess, if we were to be more, like, accurate, maybe 28 million, but that's still whatever. It doesn't matter. 28 million sales, okay? That is pretty much, like, those 2 games combined pretty much sold what Breath of the Wild sold. And Breath of the Wild in itself was, like, a game that, remember, was hyped up beyond belief. It's critically acclaimed, and it released like one time, and we haven't gotten a new one since the last one, and Breath of the Wild 2 is still taking forever to get finished, right? So it's like, you know, not a yearly release. This is a yearly released product, right? And of course, now we have Scarlet and Violet coming out, which is probably going to be doing the same numbers up there, close to what Sword and Shield did, maybe even lower. Now, the reason, of course, a lot of these games, like Sword and Shield, like Breath of the Wild, and like, you know, Ultimate, the reason a lot of these games did also well is because you have to remember one important thing. These were like the earliest games for the Switch. This was when the Switch was still in its infancy and, you know, just had started its like existence, right? So it didn't really have a fully fledged user base that was like, you know, massive or anything just yet. Like, it didn't really have that. So it, you know, you can't really 100% compare the two. You can't really, you know, look at them and say that, you know, oh, you know, it's going to perform better than this or whatever. what I'm trying to say is the fact that these two, like this and the other game, that they combined could have sold more than Sword and Shield, which is a new generation game, is incredible, because BDSP, that was created by another studio, and Legends was created by, you know, Game Freak. And combined, those sales are pretty high, which means that they can definitely do that again. Give Ilka a smaller project at the same time, and then they can make another one of those experimental games where they can experiment with concepts and ideas. And this all fits perfectly, again, into what we see right here. The fact that they now have an easier way to make games and able to actually jump from different styles and different things. So I think it's highly possible we might see that into the future. But it is what it is for now. I want to know your guys' thoughts and opinions, and what you all think about this. And yeah, it is quite interesting to think about all this. Nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, we've also seen a bunch of people talk about this on Twitter. Now we're going to jump over to some unrelated stuff, which has to do directly with Scarlet and Violet. So let's get into that. First things first, which is the theory from Pokemon, from Soul Silver Art about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, saying, theory, what if Nemona's mother, or a female relative, is the champion? Nemona's storyline is confirmed to be connected to the Gym Leader and or Pokemon League Challenge, so she will be related to it somehow. Then there's the hints from Ku that she's a goddess. Maybe her mother is. And this comes back to a post he actually made before as well, where he says, so I knew the name before Kaka, and I was waiting to share this revelation when the region was revealed. But since that never happened, and everyone knows it now, anyway, when Ku called Nemona a goddess, I lost it. My android theory aside, pal equals friend, and Dea equals goddess in Latin. And then he continues on saying, an actual goddess, and Nemona is more like a demi-goddess, as in the child of a goddess, which also brings Paldea, pal friend, and Dea goddess, our goddess friend, into play. Given what we know of paradoxes, there's always a chance that the champion is a literal paradox version of Nemona. Depending on which version of the game you have, you'll have to challenge one of Nemona's godly ancestors, or one of her godly descendants. Oh man, that could really be it too. Ku and Kaka both pretty much confirmed the champ is female, so in my opinion, either of these theories hold water. But yeah, what do you guys think about that? I guess somebody related to Nemona will be the champion. Now, we know that this game, actually, we already know that Scarlet and Violet is not going to have a singular champion. There will be people with champion ranks. That's something we already know. But will the person that's related to, I guess, Nemona, will be the person that, like, serves as the final boss, you know, champion type person that we're going to be battling in this tournament or whatever? We don't know, and we'll have to wait and see. Moving on to the next thing, which is a post from Subarashi, and this is actually a fan art of the fish Pokemon that I showed off yesterday. Now, this is actually the face here, like this front part of the face here, is actually a real leak. Like, that was from a real leaked, like, gameplay image from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, but we don't have the rest of the body, and this is just an interpretation by Subarashi of what it possibly could look like. So, what do you guys think about that? Let me know in the comment section down below, and let's move on to the next thing, which is a giant post by Pearl Enthusiast, who says the following, which is all about what Kaka has been saying most recently, and here it all is. It's going to be a long post, so sit back, relax, and let's go through it. So, Kaka recap from today, which was yesterday. So, there's a Scarab Beetle pre-evolution Pokemon, which is a pure bug type, which we already know. A Scarab Beetle evolution, which is bug psychic. Summon Nemona's team, which is Lycanroc, Palmy. And then Penny's Ace is a Sylveon, which is interesting. The future Volcarona, which is going to be one of the Paradox Pokemon, is a Fire type, but not Fire Fairy. The Poison Flower Pokemon has two types. We knew this. Paradox Jigglypuff is a Fairy type plus something else, and it's not Poison. So there's a Paradox Jigglypuff now, which... actually, no, we already knew about that one. Paradox Amoonguss does not keep Poison, but keeps Grass, which is interesting. Paradox Gallade is still fighting, and it has a thinking emoji on it. If it keeps Psychic, it does not gain Fire. Spider is Bug type, and it is not a Dark type. This is a new Spider Pokemon. He replied, "What boss?" to "Can you tell us how boss?" He replied, "What boss?" to "Can you tell us how the boss battles work?" I'm thinking he doesn't know what it means. Dolphin is a water type, which is fair enough. The Blue Tauros is a fighting water type, which is something we already kind of knew. Tumbleweed Pokemon is a grass ghost type, which I think some people have been arguing that it isn't, just based on some of the translations over on like r/. But I think he's actually kind of like figured this out like by actually translating it properly. So either way, the Catfish Oyakata is pure water. The Paradox Misdreavus is a ghost fairy type. The Engine Pokemon only has tires, no legs, which is interesting. The Hake Fish water type is water plus something else, and it can't fly. The Togedemaru is not in the dex apparently, and non-battle is a response to a person asking about how the new battle method is he teased this, or like how it functions. So Flowers typing is Poison Rock. We knew this, which is interesting. The future Paradox Volcarona is not a dragon type. Fido's evolution is red and brown, which we kind of have a few ideas of what that would look like. Then a question was, how do you find the sub-legendaries and how? The answer was from the cliffs in the snow behind the falls, every corner of Paldea. So yeah, it's like the little cliffs with, I guess, the waterfalls coming down. You can catch Paradox Pokemon just before the end. Then he says the Fire Blade Pokemon is fire plus something else. Furfrou is not in the Scarlet and Violet decks, apparently. Snubbull is not in the decks, apparently. And Aye is not a normal poison type, so that's another Pokemon. We hatch eggs from picnics, which, wow, okay, so that's how egg hatching would work, from literal picnics. Okay. Grasshopper Pokemon is a bug dark type. And then there was a question, is a season system in the game like in Gen 5? He says thinking emoji, emoji, and then thinking emoji. So sub-legendaries are not villains. I guess somebody was asking, I guess, or something. And somebody asked here, or sub-legendaries are not villains. Okay. And is the crab only rock type? And he says, just SSS. His favorite new dog is the ghost one. Okay. Tentacle region fake is not grass poison. Okay. And the Oricorio is in Scarlet and Violet, apparently. Future Paradox Donphan is ground plus something else. Fighting Teacher, the one with the Hariyama, does not have an important role in the game. The Paradox Hariyama is not a ghost type. Okay. Plusle and Minun are not in the decks, which is unfortunate. Meowstic is not in Scarlet and Violet. More details. The Spider is bug type. The Dolphin Waterfowl is an electric flying type. Cayman Rider is a bug dark type. Scarab Bug is a bug, or possibly bug psychic. The blue Tauros is fighting water. Poison Flower is poison rock. The Hake Fish, I guess, is water. The Fire Blade is fire. The Tumbleweed is grass ghost. And the 3-stage salt Pokemon is rock. And then the Paradox Jigglypuff is fairy. Paradox Amoonguss is grass. Paradox Misdreavus, Ghost Fairy. Paradox Gallade or Gardevoir, something and fighting. And then Future Donphan is ground and something. And yeah, that's pretty much that. So shout out to Pearl Enthusiast, by the way, for actually putting this together. It's a fantastic post. It just kind of summarizes everything that's been posted by Kaka recently. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to pretty much be it for this video. I don't think I've really missed anything. I think we pretty much have seen everything that we had to say here. And I just want to get you guys' thoughts and opinions on all this. So, let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you all for watching. I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Peace out and bye-bye, ladies and gentlemen.